Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of InsurTech LA. My name is Gilad Shai and in this episode I'm happy to interview Denise Garth. Denise is Chief Strategy Officer at Majesco, responsible for leading marketing, industry relations and innovation in support of Majesco's client-centric strategy. She is recognized as top 50 InsurTech influencer and recently was listed as top 50 women leaders in the SaaS industry. Please join my conversation with Denise Garth. Hi Denise, how are you?
Hi, I'm very good. Thank you.
Hi, I'm very happy to see you. Thank you very much for joining me today for a quick conversation about Majesco, about yourself, insurance, InsurTech, and many other things. Now, for people that don't know you, which I will be super surprised if they don't know you, can you give a little bit background about yourself?
Sure. So I've been in the industry my entire career. I was first on the insurance side with a number of different insurance companies for probably a little over 20 years in various roles on both the business and the IT side. I actually started out on the IT side early in my career. My last role was as a CIO, and then I moved on to Accord, the standards organization for the industry, and was there for about 8 years, growing the international footprint, driving standards adoption, and also just the creation of standards, really moving into the next generation of standards that they've offered, which is really around models, that really fit into, I think, a next generation type of technology. From there, I worked for a vendor, and then I moved on to strategy meets action as an industry analyst, working on the emerging tech and innovation practice. And then I joined Majesco about 5 years ago, working with them and to really kind of help drive their customer-centric growth strategy around both P&C and L&A. So I've really played on all different sides of the business, from the standpoint of an insurance company to a technology provider to an industry organization to an industry analyst. And so I've really seen the industry from many different dimensions across all lines of business and then across multiple geographies. So it's been an interesting career and rise, and not one that I planned out that way by any stretch of the imagination.
Before we jump into, your thought leadership and stuff like that, congratulations. You nominated recently for being in the top 50 women in SaaS, which is amazing. Soon enough,
Yeah,
it
it was a pleasant surprise to say the least, because it's across all industries, and it's an honor to be with a number of other women in there. I think it really says a lot about the industry and the real focus at really driving talent, regardless of different diversity aspects. And so I think that's a really positive for the industry.
How do you see diversity in our industry?
I see it as it's improving. It's continued to improve. I mean, from, very early in my career, there weren't that many women in senior leadership positions inside of insurance companies or your vendors. It was fairly male dominated. But over the course, as with any industry, and it was with a lot of businesses here in the US, it has really blossomed to really have a lot more diversity. Probably can have more. I'll be the first to say that. But it does offer a lot of opportunities. I think that for those that are really looking at opportunities, I think, bringing to the table, passion, bringing to the table your energy, bringing to the table knowledge and expertise is going to be really important. I think the really interesting thing now is that we're even looking for people who come from outside the industry, bringing an outside the industry kind of perspective, particularly as we think about digital engagement and how do we kind of engage with customers, because, as our research has kind of shown, the silos between industries are falling down. It's really becoming much more of a very dynamic ecosystem of different entities participating and playing with each other and embedding insurance. And so I think it's only going to bode well for diversity, because we're going to have a diversity of thinking, a diversity of experience, a diversity of a lot of different aspects.
And you've been one of the more loud voices, I would say, in terms of thought leadership. You're producing content in addition for being the face of Majesco. So can you tell me a little bit more about what you see as the future of insurance?
Yeah, so I've when I was a buyer, I was the type of person that I wanted to have added value, from the partners that I worked with. Help me stretch my thinking, help me kind of stretch my strategy, help us kind of see a different kind of future. It was more than just buying a piece of technology, it was more than buying features and functions. I wanted a partnership that would really kind of work with us as we kind of move towards our strategy, our future, all of that. And so that thinking that I had and that experience that I had as a buyer, I've really applied it into the work here at Majesco. Obviously, my work at Accord and at an industry analyst firm kind of frame that as well. But I think in today's world, if we really believe that digital is really going to be a way that we're really engaging with any customer, and in our case, engaging with our customers or potential customers, most B2B buyers today are looking to research. They're looking for information that can help shape their strategy, that can help shape their thinking, that can help shape their plans. And by doing that, they really get a better sense about Majesco and our point of view. I happen to be that person who's kind of emphasizing that out into the marketplace, but we have a very strong view about the future of insurance. It's really about being very dynamic. It's about being very digitally oriented. It's about having different ecosystems of partners, just not technology or data providers, but technology or partners that would really expand your market reach from a distribution standpoint, partners that would give you added value services that you can kind of bundle with your risk products that offer something greater to your customers, because today's customers have a very different kind of point of view. And so, one of the things that we've done is we really have these key research reports that we put out annually. One is our strategic priorities, where we're really getting a feel for where the industry is, where insurance companies and MGAs and reinsurers and brokers are really kind of planning out their future. And then we look at the customer, both from a consumer and an SMB standpoint. And then we begin to look at the gaps between those, the gaps of expectations to what they're kind of delivering. And I think it gives a really interesting roadmap for companies to really kind of step back and reassess their strategies and reassess their plans against what others in the industry are doing, but most importantly, what your customers' expectations are. And that has really driven what we've kind of talked about is this knowing doing gap. We have a lot of people in the industry who know what's happening. They know about InsurTech, they know about cloud, they know about all these technologies like AI and machine learning, but very few are planning and even fewer are really executing on that. And what's happening is that we're getting a gap between leaders and followers and laggards. And that gap is growing. We've seen that grow over the 5 years that we've been doing our research. And leaders are really stepping up their game, but not enough followers and laggards are stepping up their game. And in today's age of constant change and the pace of change, that gap is going to get to a point where it could be actually insurmountable just from a resource, let alone from a cost standpoint. And so it puts a lot of companies at risk if they're not really buying into rethinking what it is that they need to do to be really relevant in a new era of insurance that's driven by a completely different set of buyers, this next generation of millennials and Gen Z.
The core of it, to make all this wonderful reprioritization happen, is basically the digital transformation. Can you talk a little bit more about the different customers that you have and how that process of transformation happened with them? Maybe some sort of a use case.
Yeah, so I think COVID has just really accelerated a number of customers and the industry, quite frankly, in total, with regard to what it is that they're offering out to the marketplace and how they're doing it and how they're engaging with their distribution channels and how they're engaging with their customers. And so we've seen an acceleration of even core systems, looking to replace that legacy system. They may not replace all of it. They may be just looking at policy and billing to start. Or in some cases, for some tier ones, they're looking at billing at an enterprise level, because billing is no longer a back office function. It's front and center at the engagement with customers. And then we've got other customers who are really focused in on creating that different digital experience, at creating not a portal out of the box, but a real experience, moving away from a transaction to an experience that they're able to really kind of engage with channels, but more importantly, they're also engaging with customers. And then finally, it's really kind of launching new innovative products. We just announced, a number of customers who have done some things recently, everything from a cyber insurance to an on-demand agriculture product. And both of those we did in, I think, one in 9 weeks and one in 12 weeks. And so that reflects the speed of change and the speed to be able to drive new products to market, to be able to capture market opportunities, to be able to engage with customers differently. Those are the types of things that insurers really have to begin to look at and to do differently, and not wait 2 years before they put a new product out, because 2 years will be much too late. The market will have changed by then.
Yeah, that's very impressive, because usually it takes we're talking about 7, almost 12 months to get a new product out into the market. And
Yes.
with you, just cut it by 50%, if not more, which is
Yes.
very impressive. Now, if you don't mind, how are you positioned compared to your competitors? We know you, Duck Creek did their IPO recently. Guidewire is also one of the leading core systems. And then we see all the new startups that providing lightweight platform, or they built an MGA. They can't do anything more with that MGA now. They are spinning their technology IP as a platform.
Yep.
Where do you see that?
So I think Majesco's in a pretty unique position, because we not only provide core platforms on the property and casualty side, but we also do on the life and annuity and group side. And at the same time, we're also providing a digital experience platform, a no-code, low-code platform. And then on top of that, we've got data and analytics with, a data model and enterprise data warehouse, as well as distribution management capabilities. So we can kind of look at it that we really kind of handle all of the kind of core business functions, from an insurance perspective. I would say that more importantly, what really begins to set us apart is some of our competitors. We were very early moving into the cloud. So when I joined the organization 5 years ago, we actually announced our cloud insurer platform, which really is an infrastructure as a service for cloud, and where we actually implemented a number of our customers. So we've been growing that, and we started that 5 years ago. We also re-architected all of our solutions to be able to be cloud enabled, to take advantage of all of the cloud technologies and the cloud capabilities that really can add a tremendous amount of value. And then on top of it, we have been really leading with microservices and APIs. Both of our core suites have well over 1,000 APIs defined within them. And then 2.5 years ago, we launched Digital First Insurance Platform. It truly is a platform as a service, and it is native cloud, built from the ground up. But what's really unique about it is that it has rich insurance content, and that ties into our ecosystem. So we've been building out an ecosystem of partners that we've pre-integrated with into our core systems. But more importantly, now we're doing it with APIs dynamically, so it can truly be a plug and play. So different than what some other vendors have done, where they have accelerators or they do the point-to-point integration. Ours is that they actually create an app, and it can actually do the calls from any of the systems to be able to actually do it on a dynamic plug and play basis, and you don't have to constantly relook at that integration point. So it's very much like what Apple did with the Apple Store. It's kind of like the Majesco store of apps that we're building out with a lot of our partners. It takes a little bit more time, but it's going to save a tremendous amount on the back end. More importantly, it's going to give a lot of access to a lot of interesting capabilities dynamically for our customers who are using our platforms.
And that's the Eco Exchange, right?
That is the Eco Exchange, correct?
Eco
Digital
Exchange.
First Eco Exchange. Yeah, and it works with all of our solutions, but more importantly, it will work with other core vendor solutions as well.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
No, it's very great to see that, you're bringing the partnerships. There is a very straightforward and very clear positioning compared to other value provider in the industry.
I think, the words sometimes in our industry get overused. So words like omni-channel, I think it's an overused word because it doesn't tell you anything. What does that really mean? And so words like, oh yes, we can operate in the cloud. Okay, well, are you really cloud enabled? Are you taking advantage of the cloud technologies? Is it native cloud? All of those types of things. It's probably just more of a hosted type of an implementation than truly a cloud. But we all like to use those phrases and those terms. And so what that has to do is that you really have to have, as a buyer, you really have to have those have that knowledge and have that ability to say, what is truly the difference? Is it truly hosted, or is it truly cloud? Is it truly a platform? Because if it's a platform, it has a number of other capabilities that are tied into it. It's got to be cloud. You've got to be able to have APIs, rich set of APIs that are being able to use. How do you have an ecosystem? All of those different types of things I think are really important. And I'm not just saying it because that's our definition. I'm saying it because that's what happens in other industries. All you have to look at is big tech. Look at Apple, look at Google, look at Facebook, look at Workday, look at Salesforce. That's how they define platforms. And I think that's what we have to also learn and understand as well.
So do you still hear that from customers that are asking, are you in the cloud?
Yes. Yes. There are still some insurers that are still very much in an on-prem and legacy system, and they're trying to understand what's that going to mean to go to the cloud. I think that for us, all of our sales have been in the cloud, either our cloud or the customer's cloud. Some of the big tier one insurers have their own cloud environments that they're managing. But I think what you still have some that are a little bit hesitant about it because it's a big shift for them in the way that they've done business.
So please help me to understand. Although I went through one digital transformation with a certain big insurer, why? Why it's a big problem to move from on-prem to the cloud?
I think for some, there's still a little bit of a concern about control. I think there's still a little bit of concern about privacy and about privacy of data and about security. But quite frankly, we operate in Microsoft's Azure cloud, whether it's Azure, it's Amazon AWS, it's IBM's cloud. They're much safer than most companies' on-prem systems, and so I think that's getting past that. It's just a matter of having to walk them through the data and the information, so that they have a comfort level.
Yeah, somehow I trust a little bit more the 200 or 500 Google cybersecurity engineers rather than the 2-3 cyber folks that work for Insurer X. I don't know why.
Quite frankly, it's a cultural change. It's a leadership change. And so for the most part, the insurance industry, and for the most part, insurance companies have always done everything internal to them, to their own organization. And, it's a change in how do you structure your business model? How do you create different kinds of partners that are going to provide different types of services? Maybe it's the document management. Maybe it's the printing. Maybe it's the cloud environment. There's a lot of different ways that you've got to kind of rethink. How are you going to put your new business model for the future together, because you don't have the resources, let alone the time, to be able to do everything internally. So you've got to define those partnerships in a different way. And those partnerships now are all up in the cloud. And so you've got to get to the cloud to be able to take advantage of them. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind.
I love it. And that's a great point, because it's not just about the core system. It's not just about billing. It can be, how do you sell big files between one person to another? We have a huge PDF. It's not from such a small a tool. We talked back in the day about Slack. It's like, okay, a communication
Yep.
between the different employees. How do you do that? Well, it's based in the cloud. Can we do that? Do we need a different solution? Something that will run on-prem. Although I think that at a certain point, Slack or Yammer, one of those guys actually created an on-prem solution
Yep.
to work with those enterprises that
Yep.
couldn't move to the cloud. But
Yep. And I think if you look at our research with customers,
mhm,
you look at their openness, particularly this next generation, they want insurance embedded in the purchase of something else.
yeah,
They want it on demand. Oh, I'm going to go skydiving. I think I'm going to buy a term life insurance, while I'm skydiving. I'm not sure you could get underwritten, but the concept is there. And those types of things are going to require instantaneously dynamic ability to be able to issue, rate and underwrite a policy on the spot. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you're in the cloud, because you're going to be pulling in data and information and partnering with somebody that they're in the cloud. And to be able to have that market reach, you're going to have to be in the cloud.
so this is the assumption that the filing and everything is already done, but here is the technology to enable your customer to
Yes.
toggle it up, down. Hey,
Yep.
now I'm skydiving. Now I'm on the ground.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
so
it's the idea. We just put out some new research on affinity and program business. The concept that you could create a product that is a little bit more customized for niche markets. So, travel insurance was like that. Pet insurance has become like that. But how are you going to partner with different organizations that have a broader reach that you can offer your product out to those organizations? It's what SoFi, which is a big bank, is partnering with Root, Lemonade, and Ladder Life, that they're basically offering those products off of their site and to their members, as a new generation type of bank that basically started as being able to consolidate your student loan debt, and be able to have that at a better price or a better rate, and now they've expanded that relationship with those customers, that they're doing far more than that. They're owning the customer relationship by, through APIs, offering out these other products and services with other entities that they can create a greater value to their customers. That's the same type of thing that we have to think about.
Yep. And I think that I recently saw that Sheffield from Caberger, shout out, pointed out that Lemonade is they have a life agency. I don't know if they are already.
They're launching in the next 90 days. They just had a big announcement about it. Yeah, they're launching in the next 90 days, term life. And they're going to look at auto next. They're going to look at auto as well.
Interesting. So far, they started from rent in urban areas, so New York, Amsterdam, and somewhere in Germany. They have home. No, they don't have
and
home.
Homeowners and renters.
They have home.
And pet.
And pet recently, and now they are moving to life.
Yes.
Impressive. And this is all about, here is a product, we have the customers, now let's start upselling.
I think it's more than we have the customers. They have a different kind of customer experience. They've created a different kind of customer experience to be able to offer out a product. I think what they're going to do is going to be probably similar to what Ladder Life and Haven Life have done. But they've got a little bit difference because they've got the behavioral economics, the way that they're asking questions are going to be a different factor into that than maybe what Haven and Ladder Life have done. But it's everything's changing, and that's going to create further competition out in the marketplace.
So this is, I would say, the missing opportunities for the insurance companies who are a little bit behind. You talked about the leaders, you talked about the laggers. What other opportunities are they missing?
I think they've got to step back, and I wrote about this in some blogs recently and had a webinar, whereas we're looking at our plans for 2021. Obviously, COVID changed all of our plans during 2020 and kind of stopped some things, move some things around, reprioritize. But it's not business as usual, and it's never going to be business as usual again, because our customers have completely changed their behaviors and their expectations. So we've got to step back and say, how do we readjust our planning process and our budgeting process? I remember being a CIO, and 70 to 80% of my budget was spent on keeping the lights on, keeping the existing stuff going, doing some minor enhancements, that kind of stuff. And then maybe we had some resources left over to do some more innovative projects or strategic projects. I think you got to start looking at where are you going to cut back on the existing and where are you going to start investing into the future. The other aspect is that we're sitting on a lot of capital as insurers. That capital is required from a regulatory standpoint, but many insurers are sitting on more capital than they need from a regulatory standpoint. The investment in, interest rates are not great. Yeah, you can invest it into the market, and hope that you get some good returns in the market. But maybe you need to start looking at investing it in your own business. Instead of investing it in other businesses, maybe you invest it in your own business. Take a few million here or there and start investing at creating your next business model for the future. Because the products we're going to offer, the customers we're going to do, the way that we engage, the cost structures are going to be completely different. If you try to overlay that on your existing business model and your existing systems, you're going to kind of do a disservice to both. So yeah, you need to modernize and optimize your existing business and keep it going because it's paying the bills. But you got to start thinking about building this business for the future because it's going to be very different. It may be with starting a new division. It might be a greenfield operation. It might be introducing a new product. Whatever it is, you got to start experimenting and start doing it today because I will tell you that your competitors across all tiers are doing it today as well. Some you see it very prominently in the marketplace. Some are very quiet about it. And so you've got, and so ones that are very quiet about it, you probably need to be the most concerned about.
So I would like to shift the conversation a little bit back to you. Now, you're active with SVIA, a mentor at GIA. And so we'll give a shout out to Mike and Natalie, and of course to Nicole. And what do you see part of that work? What do you see from the InsurTech side?
So I think what the InsurTechs, and we partner with a number of InsurTechs and are constantly looking at it. Mm-hmm. They need to really hone in on what their value proposition is. I remember the very early days of InsurTech. I get a lot of conversations and a lot of people asking me questions. They had a whole different idea, but they didn't understand the regulatory environment, or they didn't understand how it would kind of play into existing systems. And so I think that we've gotten a lot better at that as an industry, but I would tell InsurTechs continue to focus in on what the value proposition is going to be, how that's going to integrate with other existing technologies that the insurer has. How is it going to enhance the customer experience? How is it going to enhance, driving true business value, and looking for ways to be able to accelerate partnerships that you can kind of experiment with things. Looking for other partners that are willing to do that. Looking for partners, that are going to do some interesting things that are going to kind of get you profiled. Everybody's so focused on just the day-to-day business that trying to get that time and that kind of perspective within insurance companies is difficult. And so sometimes partnering with the other technology vendors will give you that opportunity to kind of get profiled into some of those other companies. But you got to define that value proposition and where you connect in.
Now, I promise to keep it short and sweet this time. So with COVID, and that's a question that I'm asking everyone, can you recommend a book or something to binge on Netflix or Apple Plus?
So I'm an avid reader across a lot of genres, but I've enjoyed the James Patterson books lately, and a David Baldacci book, because they kind of take me away into a murder mystery, into an espionage mystery, things that are just very different, that just kind of takes me away from the reality of the world. So I kind of like those. And then I would say that from a binge standpoint, we have really enjoyed a number of the made for Netflix movies, that are out there. The latest one is the Queen's Gambit.
Yes.
It's really good. Yeah. So I think, looking just, for some different movies and different things. I will tell you that on regular TV, there was a TV show that we absolutely loved that was discontinued a few years ago. It was Rizzoli and Isles. And there was a binge on it on, I think it was on Lifetime recently, that they had it on every Tuesday and every Wednesday. They binged it all day. So we taped it all, and we've been going back and rewatching all of those too. And that's been a lot of fun as well.
That's fantastic. No, I think that recently, or I don't know why, but my wife keep watching murder, all kinds of detective and murders series, and I just wonder if she's taking notes or. But the funny part,
Like it kind of works your mind. It's kind of like who did it type of thing. You know, you're kind of trying to figure it all out. It's kind of fun. Going to the theaters, and I don't think we're going to be going to the theaters anytime soon. So
no,
you
I don't
know,
think so.
I think that's another business model that's going to completely dramatically change. Will people go back into theaters, you know, or are they going to look for the alternative that can do it from their home? I think doing it from your home is becoming increasingly bigger and bigger. This whole pandemic has been a tipping point for many industries to rethink their business models, to rethink digital, because business and consumer behaviors have dramatically changed. I know mine have, and I'm probably not going to go back to the old in many ways. And so I think that we all need to kind of rethink how we're going to move forward into a different era of insurance for us specifically as an industry, given the dramatic changes and behavioral changes and expectations that customers have now.
Thank you very much. I have no idea if I'm going to keep that last part, and oh my God, I'm going to have so much work on editing stuff.
Well, good luck. And then let me know when you have something ready, and we'll make sure that we post it up on our site and do social and everything as well.
It will be my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care. Have a good day.